One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A number of you have said, don't just begin speaking. Give us a chance to get through the introductory, whatever it is, slide or video before you begin speaking. So I hope I gave you time to get ready. First of all, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It just occurred to me now, this is the first Saturday morning gathering on YouTube Live, and it's the first Saturday CNN show that I'll deliver. I guess I'm a little rusty, although I thought we had a great radio week this week. 5 shows, and TC would tell you that I am my own, got to turn off my phone here. I am my own harshest critic. And there are plenty of days that I walk out of the studio and will say to her as we're leaving, this didn't work, that didn't work, I don't like my commentary, that particular guest didn't bring to the table what I hoped that they would bring. But this week just seemed like it really rolled. It really was a quality week. So if you listened this week and were not satisfied, I got nothing for you. But I feel like we had a good week last week, and we'll have another good week to come. Hey, a question about some vanity first, okay? Let's deal with the vanity, the specs. It's funny because I feel like Dustin Hoffman, it was Dustin Hoffman, right? Yeah, Dustin Hoffman in Wag the Dog. Remember, he and De Niro were sort of cohorts, and Dustin Hoffman was the Hollywood producer, and he had those big Hollywood-type glasses. When I went and I ordered these before Christmas, they had a pair in the optometrist that was slightly larger. And I said, geez, I really like that frame, but it's too big. And they said, oh, well, we can't show it to you, but you can order them in a smaller size. And when they came in, they were still too big. Don't they look too big? I mean, the reason I'm wearing them is they are my most comfortable glass, my most comfortable pair of specs. But the ones that I have worn on CNN for all 8 years are these. I've had the lenses replaced, and they cost me a fortune because I've got to get non-reflective lenses, and I also need a progressive lens. So, you go in and they say, oh, it's X dollars for the frame, but by the time I get the lens, like I could have a frame with no glass in it. That would look funny. And then these are the ones I wear on TV, and I have worn because I like this size. Got to be very gentle. Tell my kids, take care of your eyewear. I mean, these look rather goofy, don't they? I'll read your comments later. Chris Mack, I didn't get anything for the computer screen. I'll get to the substance in just a moment. Please don't rush me. TV, real life. We're all friends. I'm going to go real life with you here on YouTube, especially those of you who get up early on a Saturday and hang out with me live. Anyway, Happy New Year. Nice to be back. Nice to see you all. So, something interesting happened on Wednesday on radio that's going to morph now into television, which is often the case. I did a commentary on Wednesday's radio program. I think it was right at the outset. You can always go back and you can listen on the SXM app. And I talked about what I regarded as COVID kids who are coming to maturity, maybe launching in the era of this pandemic. And I was speaking not only of kids in school, like those in Chicago who weren't in school this week, but also I'm thinking about young people who've graduated from high school or graduated from college without the benefit, by the way, of commencement exercises, and now are entering the workforce in a remote world, and all that they are losing in the process. And it was a rather dim view of the world from their perspective. My heart breaks for them. I've got a number of these still under my roof, these COVID kids, as I'm calling them. Or as I'm going to say on TV today, the COVID kids are not all right, if you remember the Who reference. And no sooner did I deliver the commentary based largely on anecdote, things that I had seen and observed and worried about, that very day in the New York Times, and I had missed it in my print edition, but David Leonhardt, let me just see if I wrote anything that I'd be embarrassed about before I show you this. No. He had written this column in the New York Times on the exact same day. And he had the data to back up the points that I was making. You know, achievement gaps. Actually, here's the way he begins what he wrote. American children are starting 2022 in crisis. I have long been aware that the pandemic was upending children's lives, but until I spent time pulling together data and reading reports, I did not understand just how alarming the situation had become. Here's an overview of the crisis, says David Leonhardt. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but just to give you a taste. Achievement gaps formed as children fell far behind in school during their first year of the pandemic and have not caught up. Among 3rd through 8th graders, math and reading levels were all lower than normal this fall, according to the NWEA, a research group. The shortfalls were largest for Black and Hispanic students, as well as students in schools with high poverty rates. Okay, then he goes on to talk about mental health problems. They're being aggravated by isolation and disruption of the pandemic. 3 medical groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, recently declared a national state of emergency in children's mental health. Suicide attempts have risen, slightly among adolescent boys, sharply among adolescent girls. Gun violence on the rise. And then there was this paragraph. This is the one that spoke to me the most. He said, learning loss and isolation have worsened at schools. Once normal aspects of school life, lunchtime, extracurricular activities, assemblies, school trips, parent-teacher conferences, reliable bus schedules have been transformed, if not eliminated. So I'm going to deliver a commentary at the outset of the CNN program today where I'm going to say that the COVID kids are not all right. And I'll reflect on some of that data. But then I'm going to talk not only about those who are still in school, but those who've recently graduated. So listen to this. This is the draft. I'll give you a little sneak peek here. See what you think of this. And then there are the slightly older members of what Dr. Jean Twenge calls iGen. The ones who graduated from high school or college without the pomp and circumstance of a traditional commencement ceremony. The ones that have missed out on social interactions that I benefited from, riding the yellow school bus, jockeying for certain lunch tables in the cafeteria, and playing after-school sports. Many are beginning first jobs, but without the close contact and mentorship of a colleague or on-site supervision of a boss. They too are missing out, losing the nuance that no Zoom or email can provide. Having participated in countless online meetings in the past 2 years, I know I'm a different person when things are being recorded. I'm more stilted, less natural. Sometimes that's a good thing, but it's not a fair reflection of a real back and forth. They are deprived of on-the-job collaborative efforts, not to mention the camaraderie of social time with coworkers. When I first began practicing law, I learned more from watching colleagues try cases than I did sitting in lecture halls for 3 years. Work habits are not being fully formed remotely. Someone needs to tell today's new hires what it means to be on the clock, that bro and dude are inappropriate ways to communicate with a superior. And sometimes you just have to say yes, suck it up, and get the job done. The elementary students in Chicago who missed this past week of school, the high school and college students who have missed social and sports and academic milestones, and the new hires who are not picking up normal work practices while remote in their living rooms. They are all COVID kids, and they are not all right. That's it. So, COVID kids. Yeah, I'm very concerned. And I don't think we're going to know the impact on their lives for a long time to come. until this really gets flushed out and fleshed out. I'm just taking a look at some of your comments. Mary, my youngest is all online. I hate it for him. He needs the social interaction at this age. Absolutely. All these kids do. Have you seen two kids sitting in the same room, not at school, texting each other? This was before COVID. COVID just moved it along at a rapid pace, says Anne. Well, that's Scott Galloway's point. Scott Galloway's point is that it's not so much that the pandemic changed things as it accelerated them. That a lot of these trends that we're bemoaning were already in progress, but now they've caught fire. Oh, thank you, Eugene. Eugene said to me not to turn the show into a complete gardening program, but the W. Atlee burpee guest was great. As planting of the tomato seedlings approaches, please consider Mike McGrath as a guest. Yeah, he's a great guest. If you missed it yesterday on radio, George Ball, the chairman of the W. Atlee burpee seed company, based, by the way, in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Okay, technically, I guess their operations in Warminster, but the corporate office is in Doylestown. You can watch that here on my YouTube channel. In fact, when you're finished watching this, go take a look at George. He's a real character. I really enjoy being in his company, person to person or remotely, and I loved that conversation. He wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal this week, and their business, this is kind of interesting. Sorry to get off message here, but why not? Their business has gone through the roof in the pandemic. People are, and it's interesting, is it necessity of growing food or is it communing with nature? And I think it's more the latter. But I had a really good conversation with him yesterday. We've turned into the Jetsons, says Aubie. Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? I think of that every time that I get into my car. I can remember being in grade school and watching some time of a futuristic video about how, you'd get into a pod of some kind. I really have a vivid recollection of this, and not just from the Jetsons. And then you would just sit around with family members and then arrive at your destination. That's not too far off. Do you know that I still don't have my car back? Do you know that hit and run with UPS was the Saturday of Black Friday, so Thanksgiving weekend? And I still don't have my car? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Eric says kids also need to know how to handle business online as much. Will be likely done that way in the future. Remote schooling may offer this benefit. I guess, Eric, you're thinking that the upside is that the lack of the face-to-face is the way of the future because the world is flat and we're now technologically advanced. Yeah, I guess that's true, but how about all the social interaction that's missing in the process? How about the relationships that aren't forming? How about what Scott Galloway said to me on television a week ago? How about the fact that the relative level of sex that young people are having is way down? And as a parent, maybe your initial reaction is to say, oh my God, that's a good thing. There's not going to be some unwanted pregnancy. Yeah, that's part of it, but there's much more to it. And without people in the workplace or in school together at whatever level, those relationships aren't forming either. The longer you go without your car, the more I want the Brown fired. I don't hold any hostility toward the guy who hit and ran my car for hitting it. It's for not stopping. And he was fired. He was fired. I thought I made that clear on radio, but maybe you missed it. Chris, kids can barely look each other in the eye because they feel so awkward not being online. It's so frickin' true. It's so true. They're shut in and creating some artificial existence instead of living these things. What brings part of this to mind is that I have photo albums from my whole life, old school photo albums. And I take a tremendous amount of time organizing my photos on my computer. I'm deathly afraid of losing them. Yes, I've backed up. Yes, they're in the cloud. Yes to all of that, but it still worries me. So I have the photo albums, and then I have the online pictures. Can I tell you the coolest gift that I received this holiday season, and not expensive, was that I got from our kids one of those picture frames that just rolls photos. Obviously, you've got to load the photos. So in my photo file on my computer, the very computer that I'm speaking to you on, I just looked at the clock. I got to run, but I want to tell you this story. So on my computer, the one that I'm speaking to you on, I have, in round numbers, 10,000 pictures. I have 10,000 pictures. I guess that's pictures and videos, because I have taken the time to get the old family movies transferred, at least in component parts, onto my computer as well. So 10,000, let's call them images. And then 1,000 of them are in my favorite file. Okay? So I've taken those 1,000 images and inputted them into one of those picture frames. And it sits now in my office, my home office, and it never turns off, and it just scrolls. It just scrolls. So I see it in the morning, I see it at night, I see it during the course of the day, and whenever I look up, although I've got a lot of duplicates that I've got to get rid of, but I see a different picture. Anyway, the point is, to bring this all back to COVID kids, is that a lot of these pictures were taken when I was a teenager or younger, and were taken on, a Kodak Pocket Instamatic, or the one that you had to shake before it was fully mature. And there are a lot of good memories in those pictures. I guess, you don't take pictures of bad memories, right? I look at those pictures and I worry not just about my kids, but about your kids as well, whether they are living lives that yield those same type of memories. That's where I'm going with the commentary today. Who knows whether I'll pull it off. It's not just that the kids in Chicago aren't in school and aren't learning and are falling behind in math and science. That's an important part of it. But there's much more to it than that. There's much more to it than that. And I think it's going to be years until we fully appreciate that. And by the way, if all of this sounds like a pitch to get back to work and get back in the classroom, it is. It is. I don't want anybody's life to be imperiled because of COVID. I don't want us to be foolish. But when we are balancing the risks of these remedial measures that we're taking to control the virus, mental health, social interaction have got to be afforded more concern than I think they have up until now. That is my inaugural message, seat of the pants as it may have sounded for 2022. Hey, one last thing. I know you subscribe to the daily Smerconish.com newsletter. This is my passion project. This is my means of trying to deliver on the things that I say. What do I say? People need to get out of their media silos, change the channel. So what do I do each and every day? I hand select 20 links from disparate news sources, and I put them in a newsletter, and I send it out to 56,000 of you. But I want to get to 100,000. And you know how I'm going to get there? I'm going to take the 56,000 of you who already get the newsletter every day, and I'm going to ask you to start forwarding it to a friend. Forward the newsletter to a friend. Hey, thought you might, especially a family member who's in a media silo on the left or the right. Hey, check this out. It's free and it's worthy. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year. I think that's the final time I'm going to say Happy New Year to anybody. I've said too much already, frankly. Happy New Year. See ya.